Hello and welcome to Beauty and the Biz, where we talk about the business and marketing side of plastic surgery. I'm your host, Catherine Maley, author of Your Aesthetic Practice, What Your Patients Are Saying, as well as consultant to plastic surgeons to get them more patients and more profits. Now, today's special guest is pretty special because he's pretty new at this game. His name is Dr. Brandyn Dunn. He's a facial plastic and reconstructive surgeon in private practice in Newport Beach, California for the past 2 years. So Dr. Dunn was born in Southern California and raised in Hawaii, and he attended the University of Hawaii, John A. Burns School of Medicine. He did his residency at the University of California, Irvine, and then a fellowship at the University of Kansas, which we have to ask about because that had to have been a real challenge. Like going from Hawaii to Kansas is pretty unusual. Okay, Dr. Dunn has special interest in facial aesthetics, and he's done extensive research in rhinoplasty techniques, as well as cartilage grafting. Welcome to Beauty and the Biz, Dr. Dunn.
Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate the opportunity.
Absolutely. So let's just start with why facial plastic surgery?
Facial plastic surgery, I would say that it wasn't necessarily what I was anticipating going into when I started medical school. I wanted to be a cardiologist. I actually wanted to be a pediatric cardiologist. I knew I wanted to do something procedural. But as I ultimately got different exposures to all of the different fields, I found out head and neck surgery was really something that I was drawn to. I really like the complexity of the anatomy. I mean, you've heard this from many times, but it's true. It's like, it is so fascinating, just the integral relationship between quality of life and just kind of ultimately your identity as a person. And so I loved that, did that for 5 years. And then, it was just something that I was drawn to. I enjoyed the creative side of facial plastics. I felt every single problem was a different problem. You ask 10 different people, you get 10 different answers for the same thing. And I think, it's a lot of creativity, and it's kind of like a puzzle for me. So every single time that someone comes into my office, trying to figure out ultimately what's the best approach for them. So yeah, I love it.
Yeah. So here you are, you're in Hawaii, you grow up in Hawaii. So by the way, do you surf?
Not well, but I try.
It seems like it would be mandatory, you got to surf. Okay.
Yeah.
So you're in Hawaii, then you decide I'm going to go into practice, and then you went to Kansas. So how much of a sticker shock is it to go from Hawaii to Kansas?
It was interesting. So I went back to California in between Hawaii and Kansas, but I will say that Kansas City, the people in Kansas are honestly more like the people in Hawaii, which is pretty fascinating. Super family oriented, very Midwest culture. The Midwest culture and the people in Hawaii are very, very similar. So it was actually very comforting, I would say. Food was a little bit different. The fish was not as good, but yes, I enjoyed it.
What about the weather?
Yeah, not going to do that again. Yeah, let's just put it this way. It was my first winter. I was driving my Honda Accord in the snow, and it was interesting.
You don't know cold until you've been to the Midwest, I'm
Wild.
from Chicago for a reason. I did many winters there, and I thought, how in the world do people live in this weather? It was crazy. I never did get used to it. Yeah, I couldn't wait to get out. Yeah.
Yeah.
But,
I could see
anyway, so then you leave there, and now you say, okay, I'm not going to go back to Hawaii. I'm going to go to the most concentrated area that has the most plastic surgeons in a small radius. How in the world did you end up in Newport Beach, California?
I had no idea that there was this many plastic surgeons. No, I'm just kidding. My residency was down the street, so I was very familiar with this area. My wife now and girlfriend at the time, she's from this area. And so, we ultimately wanted to start a family in Orange County. Orange County is kind of like a beautiful bubble right next to LA. And honestly, it's fantastic. I feel like I get some of the cuisine and the beach and all of that stuff next to Hawaii, but I wanted to be in this area because of that. And also I felt, a lot of my friends and family and everyone were here. So I didn't really have a choice as far as going other places, and I was excited. And I feel like there's enough people in this area that want our services. So I think there's enough room for all of us.
Good attitude. Yeah. So how did you go about entering that marketplace? Do you join someone else's practice? Do you go out on your own? How did you do that? Or what did you do?
Yeah. Good question. So I actually joined another practice, someone that was associated with, or was previously, good friends and went to UCI. So I joined another practice, actually got a lot of incredible experience there. It was fantastic. I joined on as an employee with the opportunity for like a 1099 agreement after that. And so it was great. I learned a lot. I felt much more comfortable. I was surrounded by other people that had, more experience than me and that could kind of support me through the cases as I was, you know, um, getting more confident in my craft. And so it was a great opportunity. I did a lot more reconstruction during my first year because it was a heavy skin cancer reconstruction practice, and began doing some more cosmetic surgery in that office as well. So it was great. And then as the year came up, I had different goals. We each had different goals, and so then I decided to go separate ways. And so I ended up starting my own practice, and that's where I am now.
I take it you didn't have a non-compete?
I did not. And I believe in California, non-competes are not enforceable. I didn't want to make any enemies in this experience. Obviously, it's tough to navigate this situation. I feel like everything went fairly well. And I still operate out of their surgery center and see them all the time and am good friends with a lot of the employees and the owner and everything. And so I think everything went as well as it could have gone. But I think, sometimes you just have to appreciate the experience and then kind of, I still send him patients and everything. So I think it worked out really well.
Well, it's such good experience just to see how somebody else runs a practice.
Definitely.
Did you learn about that, like the business and marketing side of surgery or just the surgery
I
part?
did. They had internal marketing. So it was obviously a much bigger practice that, they had like 30 or 40 people within the practice. They had a surgery center. They had multiple physicians. It was pretty impressive. Um, it's hard to build a practice the way that you want to take care of patients and the way you want to do things in someone else's like big kind of organization. And so I think that's ultimately what led me to start my own. But yes, I think through the experience, I learned all of the different roles along the channel when patients come into the office, how to market, how to get patients. I made so many connections with patients that have followed me to my new practice, that have referred their friends and family. So it really did launch my career.
Nice. And were you doing cosmetic and reconstructive?
I was doing mostly reconstructive, skin cancer reconstruction of the face. And then I did, I did some cosmetic as well. The ones that were coming through the office. Yeah.
I struggle with a practice that wants to grow their cosmetic, but they're heavy into recon. Tell me, what was the experience like? Because I don't know how you give a what's it called, 5-star or white glove or whatever you want to call it experience when you're seeing 100 patients a day. You've got a lot of paperwork going on. Like,
Yep.
what was that like there?
Yeah, you're exactly right. So I mean, they had two separate entrances, which is one way of doing it. And I think the experience was great on both sides. I think the care was really good, but I think you're exactly right. It's very hard to take care of patients when you're taking care of such high volume reconstructive patients. The other side of it, which I thought was very interesting, is that, they had a lot of patients because he's been in practice for so long that were reconstructive patients that had a small skin cancer defect that ultimately converted into cosmetic patients. And that's one way of getting cosmetic patients, but I felt like it's kind of a roundabout way. And so, and another thing that I learned very quickly, which was interesting to me, is I really liked Mohs reconstruction and skin cancer reconstruction. I thought it was fantastic and really rewarding, but I had to work just as hard to get skin cancer reconstruction patients as I did have to get a rhinoplasty or facelift. And I was like, honestly, I'd prefer to do these cosmetic procedures. They're much more satisfying for me. I'm going to put my efforts with there because dermatologists want to do those procedures now. pay well and they enjoy them.
Right. Now, from the cosmetic patient's point of view, if you're an insurance patient and someone's giving you an insurance card, it's a completely different relationship. And then when you shift and now they're going to give you that credit card and it's on their dime, it changes the relationship.
You're right.
I don't love that route. I like the more direct route. Like I want, a cosmetic patient who wants to look and feel good. I want them over, I needed Moe's. It was awful. Oh, and now I want to, something fun. It's difficult to jump back and forth, honestly, psychologically.
Yeah, I agree. And I think that was their strength, but also part of the struggle of that system. So, yeah.
All right. So now you say, and you were only there a year. So now you have to decide, okay, I'm leaving. Physically, do you go look for, like, how long does it take you to find a space? Like, did you go out on your own, like your own office?
I did.
Okay. And I saw the address and you look like you're in a nice medical building. It's only 2 stories. It looks nice. But so how did you find that? Because Newport Beach is not easy to find space in.
Yeah. Well, let's just say, it happened quickly. It all happened very quickly. It all had to happen fairly quickly. There wasn't as much of a lead time, I will say. And luckily I had 2 close friends that were also going through this experience as well, or not the same experience, but opening up their own practice. One that was like 10 to 12 years out, actually, and then one that was like 3 to 4 years out. So it was really incredible to be able to bounce ideas off of them, hear their game plans. But I mean, I got a loan. That was like the first thing I did. But I will tell you that I've tried to run my practice pretty lean at this point. I'm trying to, not necessarily have all the bells and whistles quite yet, and try to keep my overhead costs as low as possible. There's a lot of opportunity for medical space in this area. I found someone that, helped me through that process in finding medical space. It was, every single situation I got to, there was like, a fork in the road. I can decide whether I want 4 rooms or 3 rooms or 2 rooms or whatever. And so, there's a lot of decisions to be made, but ultimately what I realized is, and I'm not going to know all of the answers, and is like, I just have to make a decision and go with it. I just have to decide something and start there, and can always make adjustments and changes then.
What was your vision? Because you have to have some kind of a vision. I say to a lot of the doctors, like, if you had to pick something, are you going for lifestyle here or are you going for empire building? Because that's how you'll find out. Do I only need 2 exam rooms or 20? So
yeah, you're right.
Do you have a vision for what you wanted to start out? Like, did you want to go boutique-ish or you want to like?
I was exactly. No, my approach, I would say that my overall approach was more of creating like a Hawaiian boutique type of practice. I feel like that connects better with me. I do a lot better with those types of patients. And I think in that environment, I flourish a lot more. And I think that patients come to me not just because of my results, but I think they come to me because of just kind of the overall care that I provide for them. And I think those types of practices allow me to do that.
For sure.
So that's what that was my vision.
All right. So now you're in your own practice. Did you have to like buy furniture, buy computers? Like how big and how did you get a loan? The interest rates were not so great last year or a couple of years ago.
Yes, you're correct. So, the interest rates, luckily, I don't think the interest rate was too bad. So I was able to get a decent interest rate. I definitely shopped around. There were definitely some banks that were better than others. Happy to go into details if we need to, or people can contact me if they have questions about that. But, you have to put together a budget. You have to put together a proposal. A lot of it is estimated how much money you're going to make and how much projections are, and it's based off of other people. I was lucky enough where other people shared theirs and I could make modifications and adjustments to mine. And so that was super helpful as far as getting out a loan. I believe I took a $300,000 loan out, or credit line, but I haven't needed actually much of it at all, to tell you the truth. I've done a lot of other things that have supplemented my income, which was very beneficial. So, I've done medical directorship opportunities, which was good. There's definitely pluses and minuses to that. And we can definitely delve into that.
Let's talk about that for a minute because that seems so attractive on paper, and then it's not always as easy as it looks like it's going to be. So, just a couple tips on: do you want to be someone else's medical director or not? You know?
Yeah, I would say this is how I guess this is ultimately what I decided. Once I didn't have much to lose in the beginning. So, like as I was opening up the doors and I had, a desk and an exam chair and not that many patients and not that much going on, hey, if I lost all of that, it wouldn't be the end of the world. But now I have a lot to lose. And so as my value went up and me as an individual and what I was building has increased, I felt like having other people have the opportunity to take that away from me is scary. And so that's ultimately where I got to a tipping point. So I basically figured out where it was too much.
That's such a good lesson because a lot of the doctors aren't looking at the other side of that. Like it's their reputation, it's
Right.
their medical license, it's their everything, you
I
know?
definitely have gotten calls that have caused my my heart to sink. And yeah, so I mean, one or two of those calls will definitely make you say, okay, I need to find a time when I can pull back. So I pulled back completely from those. The other things I've done is I spend a couple days a month at Kaiser. And so that's nice, consistent work. I'm doing mostly rhinoplasties there. So it's still effective and helpful in building my practice
And gaining
experience.
experience. Yeah. At
Exactly.
Kaiser, the doctors say all the time, I couldn't have never gotten that kind of experience that I've gotten at Kaiser or in the military. You
Correct.
know,
Exactly.
something to be said for just getting the hours under your belt, you know?
Definitely. And then I also approached a dermatologist, and I was originally doing 1 day a week and seeing some skin cancer reconstruction and some insurance based stuff. And now I've pulled it back to about 1 day a month. So, slowly phasing out of some of these other things, and as I'm getting busier.
Okay, I thought you were going to say you're bartending or something, your
Yeah.
side bartending.
Probably can make more money, honestly.
The hours are tough though. You have to get up in the morning.
Yeah.
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 All right. So, regarding the derms or the Mo's, are you still in like? Because here's what happens. Now you're back to this. Am I insurance? Am I cosmetic? Can I do both? How are you steering through those waters of am I cosmetic or can I do both?
Um, I think you can do both. Patients come from so many different avenues that I don't think they necessarily realize how much information is out there about you and everything. And the other thing is as far as pushing content, pushing social media content and all of those different types of things, I get to dictate what I want to present myself as. When I didn't have as many cosmetic befores and afters and things to be able to present, I was showing my reconstructions. And honestly, I think that helps sell a lot of patients because they said, if you're able to make someone look this good, then, I trust you. But I don't do that as much anymore. So I think I mostly just stick with cosmetics and reconstruction. It just comes comes in at odd hours. It's always an emergency. It's always, it's hard to kind of make that lifestyle work.
Right. Regarding the non-surgical, where are you fitting that in? Because a lot of the surgeons say, no, I'll take everything I can get right now just to figure out what I like to do, figure out what the patient's, the patient preference. Where are you at with non-surgical?
So I offer some non-surgical. My first year, I wanted to just focus on surgery. I wanted to prove to myself that I could be a successful facial plastic surgeon in this area and make sure that I got surgical patients. I didn't know if I was going to get zero patients my first year. Like I had no idea. But so I carry some fillers and Sculptura and some of the other products as well. But I don't really push it. I'm starting to push it now as far as trying to bring in those patients, but I wasn't advertising it for at least the first 7 months or so. And I'm hoping in the next year or so, maybe to bring on an injector that I can kind of pass some of that opportunity to.
Are you doing the non-surgical rhino?
I am.
Because I
I
think
am.
that patient is on the right path, you know?
Correct.
If they're not ready
Yep.
for surgery, at least they're on the path.
Test drive. Yep.
Yeah,
It's a test drive.
right.
Definitely.
So it hasn't been that long. So here you are, you've got your office, you've got your exam room and your chair and your table. Like,
Yeah.
how do you enter the marketplace? Do you do ads? Do you do a magazine? Do you do PPC? What do you do?
I do a lot of different things. So, I figured that you obviously have to do everything. So, I mean, that's the most important thing. First of all, you have to have, money to be able to do everything. One of my friends gave me a really good piece of advice and was saying, if you don't, I took out a loan. And so I wanted to use that money. I didn't want to limit my growth potential if I felt like I couldn't spend money on these particular advertising and marketing avenues. So I knew that I needed to do that. For me, I mean, we live in a time right now where social media is incredible. Yes, you can boost, yes, you can run ads and do all that stuff, but the opportunity to reach so many people for free is incredible. I don't think that this has ever been a time that we've been able to do that. So I try to push as much social media content. I wish I could push even more. But that's kind of my biggest avenue right now. And that's where I get a lot of my patients. A lot of other ways I get patients is through word of mouth, through other patients that I've taken care of from other practices and other med spas that I've kind of worked with and partnered with. So, yeah.
All right, we'll go back to that in a second. Back to business. Any business mistakes you've made to date that would be helpful to avoid for others?
It's a good question. I'm sure I've made many.
They can't be that bad if there's not one like that, because usually somebody says, "Oh, let me tell you."
Yeah. I heard a younger facial plastic surgeon say this, and I thought it was really, really helpful. Is that you have to wear different hats. You have to wear your business hat and you have to wear your surgeon's hat, it's very different. And you just have to be willing to make it a decision, and in surgery, the decision has to be 99% perfect. In business, honestly, it's 50, 60%, and you just kind of go with it. I guess the one thing that I did do is I worked with a smaller marketing company early on in my first 6 months, and they were good, but they weren't as proficient in this field. And so I felt like there was a lot of, I think there was a lot of teaching on my part that I had to provide rather than them kind of guiding me. And so I think that was one of the things that I would say is, finding someone that understands the industry is very important. So that would maybe be a mistake, but I also didn't want to spend a lot of money in the beginning at that part. And so it was kind of a double-edged sword.
Because what happens is you're paying for them to learn your vertical, and it's like, no. I'm new at this. You tell me something I don't know. I already know what I know. I need somebody who knows how the heck to do this in my world. That's the only, but then when you enter that, now you're in that niche market of marketers, and that's why they do charge more, because supposedly they know they'll be very helpful getting you off the ground. But this industry is very unusual. I always say, no, don't work with vendors who say, oh yeah, I've worked with a dentist, or no.
Exactly.
We're a different group here. This is an emotional sale. It's emotional people. It's just different. And so just work with those who already understand this group. You don't need to pay them to learn. That's for sure.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so I guess that would be kind of a mistake I made. So
all right, well, that's not bad. Yeah. But now that you were still learning not too long ago, like you were still in the fellowship and all of that. Oh, like in your fellowship, do they have any teachings on the business of marketing? Like, how much do you know when you've become a doctor, a surgeon? How much do you already know about how to set this up?
Zero. Yeah.
Why?
And well, I think part of it, so I will say, I loved my fellowship. My mentors were incredible. I'm still very close with them, but it was an academic fellowship. So that was partly my I guess I didn't necessarily see my future as much. I thought I maybe did want to go into academics. I wanted to do reconstruction. I knew, and so yeah, that's part of it. So I didn't get the exposure. If I had gone to a fellowship that maybe had much more cosmetic exposure, I probably would have been in a different situation.
Completely agree. It depends on which fellowship you do, but boy, is that priceless information. You have one whole
Yeah,
year to hang around with somebody who's been there, done that.
right,
And you're learning the surgical techniques that they know, but also how they have grown to be so successful.
correct.
How did they do it? But it's
Yes.
always really surprising. You learn, really, that's how you do it, huh? Yeah.
Yeah,
Sometimes
exactly.
you're not sure, like, I
Yeah.
didn't see it that way. Okay. So any plans to grow, or are you happy just figuring this out right now and status quo, or are you trying to get out of Kaiser? Like, what are your goals?
Yeah. My goals are to pull out of everything. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I've slowly, I was doing multiple days a week at other places, and now I do probably 3, sometimes 4 days a week, at least at my practice. My goal is to get to 5 days a week um, at my practice or operating. And yeah, I've got lots of big plans to grow.
Okay, let's talk about staff because that will be one of your biggest challenges as you grow, just finding the right people to support you. Did you hire anybody yet, or what are you doing
I
with
did.
staff?
So my wife works with me, which has
Oh, thank God.
been very helpful. So she's a ICU nurse, and she's able to assist me in my office procedures, and she does cosmetic care coordinating and doing all of that stuff. So she does kind of like the behind the scenes work, and keeps me organized, which is really helpful. And then I did hire someone else who's kind of lead management, MA, and helps with kind of front office stuff. So, and she's been fantastic.
Nice. That's getting unusual to find somebody that can wear many hats. I do a
I
lot of
agree.
HR and I think, dear Lord, what has happened to these people? Like they'll only do this one thing, God forbid if you ask them to do something else. And I think, it's gotten more complicated. But if you have a wife that you trust, that's a great start. Does she want to be doing this, or is she like, okay, get cracking here? Like, I got to move back to the OR, or
Yeah. No, she's happy doing this. Actually, I think her goal as well is to ultimately kind of phase away from the hospital and to kind of work with us as well. So I think, I mean, we work really well together, luckily. Every day's a different day, but luckily it's been going really well. I think we both kind of know our role, and we try to keep work at work, and it's not easy, but I think we're both respectful of each other's like space and time and stuff like. Maybe get a little bit needy at times, but it's okay.
Well, but you
Yeah,
know what? It gives you a lot to talk about. I know you're not supposed to talk about work at home, but work takes up a lot of our time and our mental space.
yeah,
Although you look really active. I saw you back to social media. I obviously you're working the social media angle, which I think you should. So typically you have a website, and I saw your website. It's fine. Is that the group that did it?
that was the old group. Yes,
Okay, yeah,
so I'm
and then
getting a
so
new one.
Gotcha.
Yeah,
Um, that's changing very quickly too. This whole thing with Google and privacy and AI. I I don't know exactly what's going to happen with SEO because I'm watching the search rankings and I'm just watching they're making it very difficult for a patient to Google and get to you, you know, unless
correct.
they're being so specific, like rhinoplasty surgeon in Newport Beach, California. Maybe you'll pop up if you have enough content in there where you have developed, some Google authority.
Right.
Are you finding that? Or because some of the doctors have given up and
No,
they
I
said,
agree.
I'm going with social media because I can't figure out the darn Google thing.
That's actually really interesting, and I don't know the answer to this, and I don't know. I will say that the previous marketing company that I was working with, we one of the things that they did really well is they kept a close eye on my ad dollars that were spent. And so when I was spending ad dollars on Google and I wasn't getting a big ROI, then we basically said let's kind of decrease that and do more towards Meta. And so by the end, I was spending very little on Google and mostly on Meta. And honestly, I felt like things were starting to work, and I was like, maybe I shouldn't have pulled away so quickly. But now the new marketing company, they are actually pushing more for Google. And I don't know the right answer. I think that so many of my patients have come through Instagram. I don't know if it's organic Instagram. I think most of it is organic content. But I guess I'm a little bit cautious in putting too much into Google right now because I agree. I think AI is really changing the field, and we don't know ultimately how much money is going to matter in this point because, yeah, I think it will, but yeah, we don't know yet.
Well, if you were in Ohio, I would have a different answer, but you're in Newport Beach, California, with 150 surgeons in a very small radius,
Yeah,
and everyone's throwing some money at this. So it's very difficult to be young and new. Can you throw more money at it than somebody else? Because marketing 101 is you can win if you can outspend somebody else, but is that how you want to play this?
right.
Right now, I think you have more time than money probably. And if Instagram, as long as you're asking everyone where they heard about you, right?
Every single person. Yeah,
And if they're saying Instagram, what the heck? Like double down on Instagram. I don't see that going away anytime soon. How many patients say, I saw your Instagram. I really liked what I saw. It's getting more and more sparse for them to say, well, I was looking around I was just looking around, and I saw you and 14 other surgeons, and I
yeah,
was looking like
exactly.
crazy. And that's a really tough experience. But then they'll say, you know what? I heard about you and you had such an easy name. Good for you. DUNN, no problem. And then they say, you know what? I checked out your Instagram. Then I went to your website. I think that's a way better journey than I'm all over the internet clicking and you're my 100th click, you know?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you don't always want those patients.
So how much time are you spending on Instagram?
um, it depends on the day, but probably anywhere. Personally, just kind of flipping through it or actually working.
No,
Yeah,
creating content.
yeah, creating content. Probably an hour or two a day, I would say.
hmm And are you interacting as well? Like, are you spending the time to interact with the patients who are DMing you, asking you questions?
I am. I find that that's not as effective. I
Okay.
feel like the people that come through DMs and ask questions and want to set up a consultation, honestly, I can count maybe a handful of people that have actually converted into actual clients. So I think I think that's more of like a shopper's mentality. The people that go from there to giving us a website inquiry or giving us a call or texting us, those are the ones that are more serious.
Maybe you can automate that other part. I love to
Yeah,
automate
that's a good
inquiries,
idea.
because there are inquiries, there are suspects and prospects. I love to automate the inquiries, and you just have that message that says, "Thanks so much for reaching out. Give me a call in the office, and let's
Yeah,
we'll give you some details." And then they get
that's
to
smart.
call because now we need them to get off. We need them to get off the phone and
Right.
like call your office, like interact with you. So maybe that's how to do it. And then suspects are those who actually did something, like filled out a form, they actually raised their hands somehow. And then prospects are those who like are dead serious and said, I'll pay you a consult fee,
Yeah.
to come see you. They get all the attention. If you only have so much attention, prospects get all the attention, suspects get some, and inquiries don't get automation.
Yeah, that's good to know. Yeah, I will do that.
Yeah, that's what I
I
would say.
like that. Yeah.
Yeah. But so just so some of these heavy hitters like these I won't say who, but there's some of the guys on this podcast are crushing it on Instagram. Not many, but some are. But they also said, I'm spending 3 hours a night, spending 3 hours a night interacting,
It's
and
wild.
that's my life. And all day I'm creating content because they understand the game. And that's the one thing I love about our industry. You are literally like your own sitcom or your own reality show. You are the star. So you
Yeah.
could literally be like just filming the day in the life of a facial plastic surgeon. You have patients coming and going. Not everyone will agree to it, but some will. You have every different patient story. Everybody has a different story. Every day is different for you. It's really interesting. If you look at it that way, there are so many opportunities for you to get that on film and then turn it into fun stuff, like cross purpose it, turn it into some reels or some shorts, or maybe the patient doesn't want to be shown, so you just somehow use, you know, CapCut or whatever it's called, and like disguise them somehow. It's really, if you're at all creative, it's amazing what you can do nowadays. Holy cow.
Yeah, it's pretty incredible. I will say that, it is there we have a running list of basically questions that we get asked. So, interesting questions that we get asked that we want to make sure that we kind of come back to and make educational and informative videos. So that's one thing that I found super helpful, because patients will ask a lot of questions. And so and many people have those questions. So I find that's also a nice way to kind of think of content to create.
And you've done a really good job on that on Instagram, where you can tell, like, you're doing FAQs and you're really good. You've got you have a good look and you're really articulate, and you put the captions on there in case they can't listen to you, because a lot of people are screwing around at work,
Yeah.
and so,
Exactly.
so you have the captions, and that's been fantastic. And you have the cutest dog. It's not as cute as mine, but it's pretty darn cute.
Thank you.
It's not a cat. I have a Cavapoo. What do you have?
We have a Cavapoo.
Oh, you do? Okay. Well,
we have a F1B though. So I don't know if you know, it's 75% poodle and 25% Cavalier. So that's maybe why it looks a little bit different than yours.
Its hair is so cute. It's very poodle-like. Yeah.
It is very poodle-like. Yeah.
Do you groom it a lot?
You have to. Yeah. Exactly.
Mine's every other Friday. I spend more on him than I ever spend on my own. It's crazy. Yeah. Our dog's just the greatest.
Good dogs.
Yeah. Please keep putting your dog in there, because like, I'll remember you by your dog. I have to be one of those people, the dog lover.
Yeah.
But it also shows a lot of like personality. You have your wife in there too, but you're really honed in on this is why I do what I do. That educational aspect. Because I think if you're too entertaining and you're dancing up a storm, that's fine. But because you're still young, what are your patient demographics like? Can you get the aging face patient, or is it more geared towards the younger rhino?
So I'd say it's a mix. I tried to kind of go towards the low hanging fruit with like the neck liposuction, chin liposuction, buccal fat, chin implants, the in-office things. And I feel like that was really helpful in the beginning. I've gotten quite a bit more aging face patients recently. So I feel very lucky and very fortunate. I love the procedure, feel very comfortable doing a full extensive deep plane facelift. And so I feel very lucky when I am trying to build those. So, I don't know. I'm getting a little bit of both, but ultimately they're coming in kind of both ways.
Yeah. And are you doing anything differently for the aging face? Because that patient, first of all, they're a lot older than you. Is it difficult to communicate with them? Aren't they saying to you, you could be my grandson kind of thing?
Yeah. I will say that I feel like it's interesting. I think people will self-select who they're going to come. If they're going to come see me, they've already said that it's okay to see someone that is younger. And most people that are coming in to see a younger surgeon to do a facelift already appreciate the younger mentality, the younger mindset. And I tell them, I tell every single patient this. I say, your results matter so much to me. I want you to have the best result, not only for you to feel great about yourself, but also because it means so much to me. Every single result that comes through my door matters. And so I think, I take the time, I really, really walk them through it. I'm very available for my patients. I know, hopefully it'll stay like this forever. I imagine as I get busier and busier, it's probably not going to be but I'm very involved in their care, and I think patients really appreciate that. And so, I think that's why some of the older patients do feel comfortable, because, a lot of them also the newer technique, evolution, all of those different types of things, which everyone can say. But I feel like I do provide them the highest level, the newest techniques available.
Actually, I think that's a really good selling point, because especially if you can say, because of these new techniques, there's less downtime, less fear of hematomas, whatever you can possibly say. There's a lot to be said for something new that's just been improved over the years.
Right.
And you're right on top of that. No. Any issues with getting photos? Because right now, I would think your priority is building up your social proof, and you do that with photos, with Instagram interactions with patients, as well as reviews. Any tips on how that's been going or what's working?
Yeah, it's luckily been going well. I find it, people that come from social media tend to be more comfortable because
Exactly.
that's the environment that they live in. I think I've heard you say that before, which I think
Yeah.
is really, so if you create this community, then ultimately they kind of self-fulfill them, it's a self-fulfilling prophecy.
Yeah. All right. So, by the way, are you working with any influencers? If you have you had any luck with that?
Um, no, I will say, and I maybe want to ask, maybe I'll ask you, like, it's a tough topic to approach, to say, someone that has a crooked nose, has a dorsal hump, has, jowling or whatever, and be like, are you interested in a facelift for free? Or, whatever it may be. How would you recommend approaching that? Because I feel like DMing and trying to reach out to influencers, I think, is very effective in the non-surgical. The cost is much lower, but how do you do that in the surgical?
Well, there's a doctor who actually put up an influencer page on his website, because he
Oh,
didn't want to start the discussion. He wants them to start the discussion and figure out what they want from this. And he was going
smart.
to qualify them before he even had that discussion. So he used to ask his staff. And then he said, no, let me just go further. So he has a page called Influencers on the nav bar. And then when it
Yeah.
opens up, he says, we have a lot of opportunities here. We're always being approached with, influencer kind of thing. And sure enough, he's like, how many Instagram followers do you have? How many TikTok? How many, Pinterest? Like he goes right down the line. He's not messing around. If you don't have a good following, what is it you want from me? Kind of thing. Like he's qualifying like crazy. And then it
Oh,
says,
that's awesome.
if we're a fit, we'll reach out to you. So I kind of like that, because
Yeah.
otherwise, if you start that conversation, that's so awkward, because who wants what from whom? I like the ones that are super organic, the ones where the patients just love you. Like, how, especially Instagram people, you look like a celebrity to them, because as far as they're concerned, anybody on
You're
their
right.
phone
Yeah.
is like, oh my God, I can't believe I'm meeting him. So
Yeah.
those kind, not too starry-eyed, like we want someone still, grounded. But if they're like, oh, I've wanted this forever, and they have a really good story, and they seem like they would be wonderful to work with, you could just say, you know what, I am growing my social proof here. I'm still, growing my practice. I'd love to do some kind of a like patient journey video, a vlog with you, if that's something you'd be interested in. And then she says, well, what would I get out of that? I would never do anything for free. I
Of
would
course.
say I could,
Yeah.
I do have a social media gift card that I offer, you know, because you're
Yeah.
not supposed to give people like,
Discounts.
yeah, you're not supposed to give them
Yeah.
discounts or, referral fees or any of that. So I would just call it some kind of a social media gift card that I do offer for your time. And I'd appreciate it. But I would put it all in writing too. And would say, this is what I would need from you. Consent to all the videos, the video footage we do. I have the final
Yep.
say in the editing. You would have to post it at least, post that at least whatever, 5 times,
Yep.
5 different posts on your journey with us. You have to approve your photos. You have to give me a good review, but
Yeah.
I would just do it. I would just do it carefully. Just pick that
Yeah.
person very carefully. Yeah.
Yeah. Definitely.
Okay. So any big challenges you've had? It sounds like things are going very well. No big
Yeah.
hiccups yet?
Luckily, I feel like things have been going very well. I will say that, the challenge that I'm kind of running into right now is I feel like I feel like I haven't been as organized in my trajectory and planning and having all of my KPIs and everything figured out. And I've just been I am that type of person. I tend to, be much more go with the flow. I work hard and, do all of my things, but I think that is kind of the next step between me doing this and basically getting to the next level. And so I think that's I'm evolving as a business person since I haven't gone to business school. I don't have this experience. I think those are some of the things in realizing how important it is to have the systems in place and how important it is to have all of these channels and your, like I said, KPIs and all of these things to make sure that you can have a successful practice. You need to constantly be reevaluating yourself and have your finger on the pulse of the business. And I think that's where I'm growing, I think, the most right now. Luckily, obviously, I feel comfortable doing surgery and I'm always learning to do better techniques and things like that. But yeah, from the business side, I'd say that's kind of that's where I'm headed.
Well, and that's where I spend all my time consulting on the business and marketing side, because the surgeons, right, pretty soon, surgeons are good at surgery. They are. The way you win is to be good at the marketing and the business as well as the surgery, and really get
Right.
this down, like get down your values, your goals, where are we heading with this? Because until you know that, you're just going to keep winging it. And then get your metrics in order, know your numbers, watch them, hire really good people. But anyway, we can talk more if you're interested.
Yes.
So last question, tell us something we don't know about you. And I'm going to start with this. If you grow up in Hawaii, where do you go on vacation?
I just go to the other side of the island. Yeah. No,
seriously, the rest of us went to Hawaii for vacation. Like, where do you go when you're in Hawaii? You don't go to.
I go to another island. It's great.
Okay.
Yeah. I lived on Oahu. I loved it out there. I lived on the windward side of Oahu. It's beautiful. It feels like you're on another island, but honestly, if I go on vacation, I go to Maui or Kauai or something like that. So I love it. I miss it every day.
I went to Maui and Kauai, and I thought, I'm so hyper. I literally chilled like an hour into this, and I thought, oh my God, this is really good for your mental health.
Yeah, exactly.
Wow. Yeah. It was so mellow. And at night, you can just, well, if you're by the water, you can just hear the water, and it's so tranquil. It was lovely.
Yeah. Yeah.
Except for this.
I love it.
Yeah. Did you ever get sunburned, or were you sunburned the whole time you were
yes.
there?
I definitely got sunburned. No, I definitely did. And I will say that, I use my sunscreen now all the time. And there were many, many years that I did not use sunscreen and I was in the sun, and so I'm just counting down the days till I'm going to need my skin cancer checks and things like that. So yeah.
It comes back to haunt you later,
It does. It really does.
Yeah. Well, I mean, knock on wood, I'm sure everything'll be just fine. So tell us something we don't know about you.
Let's see. I'm always hesitant to share these things, but it's very interesting, and it's just kind of a unique opportunity and maybe something that will remind you other than just my dog. But, in high school, so I went to high school in Hawaii, and the only class that was available, I had to do an extracurricular class, and the only class that was available, I was coming from California. I was this white Jewish boy from, California that didn't know how to do any sort of, had no rhythm whatsoever. And the only class that was available, because I signed up late, was hula.
Oh my gosh.
So for 4 years, I actually loved it. For 4 years, I was in hula. It's not what it looks like on TV and, when you go to the hotels and things like that. Yeah. It's actually pretty incredible. And it honestly and I did it after college as well. And I actually competed in what many would call the Olympics of hula or Hawaiian dance. There's over 1 million viewers all throughout the world that watch this competition. People will dance their entire life and never get on this stage. And it's incredible. It's in Hilo. It's, a week long. You basically make all of your costumes. It's extremely meticulous. It's high level, very, very competitive. And it's pretty awesome. And the other thing about it that I will say is when you go to Hawaii, you have your Mai Tais, you go to the beach, you enjoy the nice weather, but there's so much history and there's so much depth to the people that lived on those islands for many, many years, and the culture and the religions and the families and how they worked off the land and lived on the land. And, every dance is about a particular area and every song is about a particular area. So anyway, all that to say is, yes, that's probably my fun fact.
I would have never guessed that. That's amazing. Yeah. Okay. You probably win for the most unique answer to that question. How many tattoos do you have?
Zero.
How did you manage that? Oh my God.
My dad always said, he's like, I'm not paying for anything if you ever get a tattoo. So that scared me until I came to a point, and then I grew, came into my own senses, and I was like, all right, it's not worth it.
Because they sure like tattoos in Hawaii. Holy.
I know.
All right.
I know.
So we're going to wrap it up now. But Dr. Brandyn Dunn. So your Instagram is at Dr. Brandyn is spelled Brandyn and then Dunn. Yeah.
Correct.
And then your website. Now, how did you end up with the name coastlineplasticsurgery.com?
Well, luckily from my office, you can see the coastline. So, which is really nice. But no, I was just looking for something that kind of had a coastal Hawaiian vibe and something that can carry me to other locations and other practices. It's not, and I felt like, I wanted to grow. I didn't want it to just be about me. So that's why I kind of put all that together.
Well, thank you so much for being on Beauty in the Biz. I'll be watching your career and hoping for the best from you, but you're off to a really good start. Yeah. So keep doing what you're doing. And I like the idea of keeping your expenses down. No need to buy, a $150,000 laser right now. Maybe just think that through for a minute. But good luck to you. And everybody, that's going to wrap it up for us today at Beauty in the Biz. If you would please give me a review, that would be really appreciated. And then share this with your colleagues and staff. And then if you've got any questions or comments for me, you can leave them on my website at katherinemaley.com, or you can certainly DM me on Instagram at katherinemaley.mba. Thanks so much, and we'll talk again soon. The fastest way to success is to model other successful surgeons who have what you want. But you can only see their results, not the path they took to get there. So you continue to jump from one thing to another, hoping to find something that will work for you too. But it rarely does. So try this shortcut instead. It's guaranteed to move you forward. I compiled my intellectual property to grow cosmetic revenues, everything I've gleaned over the years, into one playbook of the most successful practices and what they do to win. Go to cosmeticpracticevault.com and let's grow your cosmetic revenues.